The moment your presence becomes commonplace, your power begins to wither. The world does not bestow reverence upon the perpetually available. It merely exploits and then discards them. Machiavelli, with his characteristic brutal candor, understood this fundamental truth. What is readily found is inherently cheap, while that which is rare commands fear and respect. Gold holds its value precisely because of its scarcity, and the same principle applies unequivocally to power. Ancient rulers did not mingle freely with the masses. They manifested infrequently, like a celestial event, compelling their subjects to anticipate, to wonder, and to quietly tremble. The less you reveal, the more fertile the ground for their imagination. And within the realm of power, imagination invariably proves more formidable than raw reality. Scarcity is not a weakness, it is a meticulously crafted strategy. When you judiciously limit access to yourself, you ignite a powerful hunger. When you withdraw, people instinctively pursue you. When you command your own presence, your very absence transforms into a potent weapon. Cease the futile quest for universal approval. Discontinue making yourself effortlessly accessible. Machiavelli's formula for ascendancy is elegantly simple. Diminish your visibility, elevate your demands, and witness the world revere you as a priceless trophy rather than an expendable pawn. If you are ubiquitously available, your perceived worth dwindles to nothing. If you are strategically scarce, you become untouchable, and it is at this juncture that people begin to dread your potential departure. Scarcity performs a dual function beyond merely safeguarding your inherent value. When wielded expertly, it cultivates an aura, an intangible force that compels others to tread cautiously around you, to fear incurring your displeasure, and to interpret every deliberate action as profoundly intentional and meaningful. You transcend the mundane status of merely a person. You evolve into a formidable presence. This aura carries an inherent danger, for it fundamentally reshapes human behavior. When direct access to you becomes a challenge, people cease to take you for granted. When your actions become unpredictable, they obsessively analyze your every move. When your control over your own being is undeniable, they begin to offer respect, even fear. This aura is not mystical, it is applied psychology. Machiavelli observed its efficacy in the courts of Renaissance Italy. The sovereign who limited his public appearances became the magnetic center around which all political machinations revolved. Courtiers whispered, speculated, and fiercely vied for his proximity. The prince scarcely needed to exert overt effort. His calculated scarcity performed the heavy lifting. You possess the capacity to forge an identical aura today. It demands rigorous discipline, not arrogant posturing. Never offer explanations for your unavailability. Never justify your silences. Permit them to wonder, to speculate, to pursue. When uncertainty pervades their understanding of your stance, they will exert greater effort to earn your favor. However, a crucial caveat: this aura, while potent against others, harbors potential dangers for you. The power it confers can tempt you into complacency. You might begin to internalize your own myth, believing that scarcity alone renders you invincible. Machiavelli cautioned against such hubris. Power built on perception must always be buttressed by an underlying foundation of genuine strength. If you are scarce but fundamentally weak, others will eventually discern the facade. If you are scarce and genuinely strong, your legend becomes unassailable. The ultimate objective lies in achieving a delicate equilibrium. Maintain sufficient visibility to ensure your continued relevance, yet cultivate enough rarity to make your presence intensely desired. Be just approachable enough to deflect animosity, but sufficiently distant to preempt contempt. This dynamic tension, neither too close nor too far, is the crucible where authentic authority is forged. Those who master the art of scarcity do not merely possess power, they radiate it. Their entrance into any room is immediately palpable, because all have been anticipating it. Their prior absence has already communicated far more profoundly than any words could. Their present arrival merely solidifies the impression, important, unassailable, and perilous to cross. This is the Machiavellian mastery of scarcity. It elevates you beyond mere respect. It renders you feared, and more significantly, indispensable. The psychology of rarity, making yourself precious. Human beings, in matters of value, are profoundly irrational. We seldom evaluate something based on its intrinsic worth. Rather, we gauge it by the difficulty of its acquisition. Machiavelli, discerning this inherent human flaw, skillfully transformed it into a formidable weapon. His dictum was unambiguous. Men esteem lightly what is easily acquired. If your ambition is to elevate your perceived worth in the estimation of others, your initial strategic move must be to cultivate rarity. Why do civilizations revere gold? It is not due to any mystical utility. Many of its practical applications emerged long after its intrinsic preciousness was established. They worship it because it is inherently scarce. Apply this precise principle to your own being. When your presence is ubiquitous, when you are effortlessly within everyone's reach, your perceived value precipitously collapses. When you meticulously ration your presence, when you manage your accessibility with the discernment of a monarch opening his gates exclusively for the worthy, people suddenly perceive you as beyond price. Scarcity inherently generates tension. When your availability is not on demand, people's minds become fertile ground for speculation. What occupies your time? Who commands your attention? What strategic designs are you concealing? Their conjecture amplifies your aura of power. The less they explicitly observe, the more they implicitly assume. A leader who shrouds his movements in secrecy projects an image of omnipotence. An individual who does not instantly answer every summons appears perpetually engaged, important, unassailable. Modern societal norms often dictate an opposing paradigm, an imperative to be perpetually connected, instantly responsive, constantly available. Yet, unceasing availability renders you predictable, and predictability is the death knell of true power. When others can meticulously chart your every movement, their fear of you dissipates, and concurrently, their valuation of you diminishes. You become akin to water flowing freely in public thoroughfares, undeniably useful, yet utterly commonplace. Machiavelli meticulously studied historical figures, princes and tyrants, who expertly deployed absence as a strategic instrument. They would retreat from court for extended periods, inducing palpable anxiety among the nobility. They would deliberately defer crucial decisions, compelling their subjects to supplicate for action. They would restrict access so stringently that every audience granted became a rare and coveted privilege. Even those who harbored deep-seated animosity toward them dreaded the prospect of being excluded. Scarcity undeniably fuels desire, but, more profoundly, it cultivates dependence. Reflect upon your own experiences. The colleague consistently available for impromptu lunches is often overlooked. The friend who invariably accedes to every request is taken for granted. The romantic partner whose availability is ceaseless gradually loses their allure. Human nature, in its stark reality, is unforgiving. We do not accord respect to that which is effortlessly obtained. Conversely, when an object or an individual is challenging to acquire, we instinctively attribute significant value to it. This is the profound psychology of scarcity. It functions because human beings are intrinsically wired to pursue what retreats and to disregard what is readily offered. Display everything, and they will grow bored. Conceal yourself, and they will labor through the night, desperately striving to unravel your enigma. Machiavelli's initial lesson is straightforward, yet unsparing. To project an aura of power, you must embody scarcity. Not by vanishing entirely, but by manifesting strictly on your own terms, at your chosen moment, akin to a sovereign making his deliberate entrance into the throne room. If your perpetual responsiveness is expected, you are merely a servant. If they patiently await your decree, you are their master. Scarcity is not a passive state, nor is it a weakness. It is a meticulously calculated strategy. A deliberate silence that compels the world to initiate the first move. When you do choose to speak, every utterance carries immense gravity. When you do make an appearance, every glance feels imbued with profound significance. This is the timeless methodology employed by leaders, warriors, and cunning strategists throughout history to transcend the ordinary, by steadfastly refusing to be commonplace. The Machiavellian scarcity protocol, a blueprint for influence. Scarcity is not an accidental phenomenon. It is a deliberate weapon, one you must wield with unwavering precision. Machiavelli's genius resided in his ability to transmute inherent human vulnerabilities into an infallible strategy. He profoundly understood that if individuals instinctively ascribe greater value to that which is rare, then your presence must be managed with the same meticulousness a miser applies to his hoarded gold. This is not about clandestine concealment. It is about manifesting on your own terms, ensuring that every appearance carries disproportionate weight. Here is Machiavelli's protocol for weaponizing scarcity. Step 1. Deliberately withdraw from the mainstream. Cease being perpetually visible, constantly accessible. Resist the urge to attend every gathering, answer every call, or accede to every request. Distance, by its very nature, cultivates curiosity. Your silence compels others to ponder your activities, your associations, and the underlying reasons for your newfound independence. This manufactured uncertainty serves as a powerful conduit for accruing influence. Step 2. Stringently control access to yourself. A monarch does not indiscriminately open his palace gates to all petitioners. Neither should you. Exercise meticulous discretion in determining who merits your attention and time, and communicate this implicitly without overt pronouncements. When access is rendered a rare commodity, people invariably perceive it as an immense privilege. They will approach you with heightened caution, respect, and even a degree of apprehension, recognizing your capacity to withdraw that access at will. Step 3. Manifest selectively and with undeniable purpose. When you choose to re-enter the public sphere, do so at moments strategically advantageous to your objectives. Ensure your presence feels meticulously orchestrated, never accidental. In a state of scarcity, even a seemingly minor gesture, a singular meeting, a succinct comment, will carry the authoritative resonance of a command. People will hang on your every utterance, precisely because such opportunities are rare. Step 4. Transform absence into allure, not perceived neglect. Scarcity does not equate to complete disappearance. Prolonged absence can lead to oblivion. The strategic aim is to offer just enough engagement to sustain interest, yet insufficient to fully satisfy it. This delicate balance maintains a state of perpetual hunger, constant speculation, and calculated disequilibrium among others. When your presence is missed, your value amplifies. When curiosity about you deepens, so too does their respect. Step 5. Leverage scarcity to sculpt perception. By rationing your visibility, you exert profound control over how others perceive you. Constant presence tends to reveal human imperfections. Conversely, infrequent appearances allow you to meticulously craft and project the precise image you desire, be it unwavering confidence, unassailable authority, or even veiled menace. They will readily accept this projected image, lacking any readily available counter-evidence. Machiavelli witnessed this principle in action across Renaissance courts, where rulers deliberately cultivated scarcity to project paramount power. They emerged only when crucial decisions necessitated their presence, and always on their own terms. This protocol compelled nobles and ambassadors to endure lengthy waits, sometimes weeks, merely to be granted a brief audience. That delay alone intrinsically communicated dominance. I dictate the terms of our meeting, not you. You can implement this identical protocol today. In the business realm, establish yourself as the individual whose time is unequivocally valuable. In personal relationships, position yourself as the one who is pursued, rather than the pursuer. In every domain, permit your absence to speak more eloquently than your words. Scarcity fundamentally shifts the power dynamic in your favor, compelling others to conform to your rules. They must adapt to your schedule, your availability, your dictates. They are forced to compete for your attention, rather than you vying for theirs. And when they finally secure an encounter with you, your presence feels inherently significant because you have meticulously conditioned them to believe it is. Machiavelli's formula is ruthless in its simplicity. Appear less, demand more. Make them wait, make them wonder, make them earn. Consistent application of this strategy will irrevocably elevate your perceived value in the eyes of everyone around you. Commanding pursuit, the art of being chased. Scarcity in itself renders you valuable. However, to transmute that inherent value into actionable power, you must harness it to compel others to gravitate toward you. The truly powerful do not pursue, they attract. Machiavelli understood that a prince who actively chases his subjects invariably erodes his authority, whereas a prince who skillfully forces his subjects to chase him secures his rule in both name and deed. So how does one orchestrate this willing, even desperate pursuit? Employ delay as a strategic weapon. When someone seeks your time or attention, resist the impulse to grant it instantaneously. Compel them to wait. Delay does not diminish your stature, it incrementally erodes theirs. When individuals are compelled to endure waiting, they inevitably begin to question if they have somehow fallen from your favor. This uncertainty gnaws at them, driving them to intensify their pursuit in a desperate attempt to restore equilibrium. Cultivate controlled unpredictability. If your actions are consistently predictable, you become easily dismissed. Conversely, if others can never quite pinpoint your patterns, your availability, your unavailability, your anticipated statements, your likely reactions, they will accord you heightened attention. Controlled unpredictability keeps people perpetually on edge, fostering a subtle apprehension of displeasing you or losing your invaluable presence. Reward with meticulous selectivity. When you eventually deign to grant access, ensure it feels undeniably earned. Acknowledge those who demonstrate patience or who prove their worth through tangible utility. If you dispense your favor indiscriminately, its value quickly depreciates. If you bestow it upon a select few, the remainder will fiercely contend for your attention, driven by the aspiration to be next. Leverage silence to cultivate desire. You are not obligated to offer an immediate response to every communication. You are not compelled to furnish explanations for your every action. A strategic absence of words can communicate far more profoundly than a deluge of rhetoric. When you deliberately withhold an immediate reaction, people invariably project their own anxieties and desires onto you. They construct elaborate narratives about your thoughts, your potential moves, and they intensify their pursuit of your approval to preempt any perceived displeasure. Manifest power whenever you appear. If you have cultivated scarcity, every public appearance carries immense weight. Do not squander these moments on trivial gestures. Speak with decisive authority, act with unwavering purpose. Others will magnify your every utterance precisely because your appearances are rare. When you do deign to offer attention, do so in a manner that feels meticulously deliberate, almost a calculated beneficence. This imbues your presence with an addictive quality. Machiavelli acutely understood that individuals are slaves to their own inherent uncertainty. When they are unsure of their standing with you, they seek proximity. When they are doubtful of having pleased you, they redouble their efforts to do so. When they fear your potential departure, they come scrambling. This is precisely why you must never chase. The instant you pursue, you irrevocably invert the power dynamic. You implicitly signal that your need for them surpasses their need for you, and they will adjust their behavior accordingly. Observe history's most compelling figures: monarchs, CEOs, military commanders, indeed anyone who commands genuine loyalty. They never dispense their time freely. Their attention is rigorously rationed, their approval measured, their disapproval often conveyed through a terrifying silence. People undertake extraordinary measures merely to remain within their good graces. You possess the capability to replicate this dynamic in your own life. In business, do not undersell your capabilities. Compel others to demonstrate their worthiness for your partnership. In relationships, refrain from pleading for affection. Instead, allow others to contend for your presence. In every interaction, project this unwavering truth. Your time is a scarce commodity, your attention a precious resource, and your favor is earned, never simply granted. When others pursue you, they invest in you, and the greater their investment, the more profound their fear of losing you. This is Machiavelli's deeper lesson. Scarcity not only elevates your perceived value, it inextricably binds people to you. They will protect you, obey you, even venerate you, because they simply cannot countenance the prospect of your absence. The erosion of authority. Why availability is poison. If scarcity is the bedrock of power, then unceasing availability is its silent assassin. Nothing erodes authority with greater swiftness than being effortlessly reachable, perfectly predictable, and easily exploited. Machiavelli observed this phenomenon in courts and palaces long before the advent of the modern world. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more frequently you are seen, the less you are feared. The more readily you can be reached, the less respect you command. Availability invariably fosters equality, and equality in the context of power is a corrosive poison. A prince who mingles too freely with his subjects inevitably ceases to embody the essence of a prince. A commander who dedicates excessive time to his soldiers risks being perceived as a mere peer rather than a leader. An individual who consistently answers every call trains others to believe his time is their entitlement. You become an integral part of their routine, not a figure of authority, not an enigma, merely another piece of the background scenery. Consider the comportment of rulers from antiquity. They resided behind formidable walls, their public appearances meticulously staged, deliberately scarce, and profoundly impactful. Those who sought an audience were compelled to supplicate, often enduring weeks of patient waiting, merely for a brief encounter. This was not mere arrogance. It was an acute strategic maneuver. By strictly limiting access, they inflated their own perceived value. People accorded profound respect to that which could not be casually approached. Contrast this with the individual who is perpetually present. When someone is constantly around, their pronouncements carry negligible weight, their absence registers no impact, and their return elicits no discernible excitement. They regress into mere background noise. Even their acts of generosity lose all value because they are anticipated, not earned. When you render yourself excessively available, you extend an open invitation for exploitation. Others will readily consume your time, drain your energy, exploit your loyalty, and offer nothing in return, for you have effectively conditioned them to believe your supply is infinite. Worse still, unceasing availability lays bare your vulnerabilities. If people are privy to your presence too often, they invariably begin to discern the hairline fractures in your armor, your mistakes, your underlying doubts, your very humanity. Mystique rapidly dissipates. What was once awe-inspiring becomes mundane, even disappointing. Machiavelli understood that power is intrinsically predicated on perception, not merely on objective reality. A leader who appears sparingly maintains rigorous control over his public image. Conversely, a leader who is constantly present cedes control over how others perceive him. This immutable law transcends the confines of politics. In the corporate world, the entrepreneur who attends every meeting risks being treated as a subordinate employee. The executive who responds instantly to every email is implicitly assumed to have no more pressing engagements. In personal relationships, the individual whose availability is endless is quickly taken for granted, whereas the one who cultivates a degree of elusiveness is instinctively pursued. The same fundamental principle governs all human interactions. What is abundant is ignored. What is rare is relentlessly pursued. When you bestow unlimited access to yourself, you inadvertently cheapen your worth, irrespective of your genuine skills, intelligence, or resourcefulness. You might harbor the illusion that you are fostering loyalty through constant presence, but in truth, you are merely conditioning others to perceive you as utterly replaceable. Machiavelli's wisdom was ruthless precisely because it was profoundly accurate. He advised princes to rigorously control not merely their actions but their very visibility. By manifesting rarely, they projected an image of being busier, more critically important, and more inherently dangerous. By deliberately withholding themselves, they created a powerful vacuum, and power, by its very nature, invariably flows toward a void. People harbored an acute fear of being excluded. They fiercely contended for favor. They regarded every appearance, every decision, as profoundly precious. If your ambition is to wield power in any domain, be it your professional trajectory, your social sphere, or your personal life, you must cultivate the discipline to resist the pervasive urge to always be present, to always respond, to always appear. Availability may masquerade as strength, but it insidiously corrodes true authority. It obliterates your mystique and relinquishes control over your time, your energy, and ultimately, your intrinsic value to others. The remedy is not arrogance. It is unwavering discipline. Appear less, articulate less, offer less. Transform your presence into something people actively note, rather than something they merely expect. When you vanish, they should perceive it as the very oxygen leaving the room. When you return, it should feel like an undeniable privilege. The ultimate leverage. When scarcity becomes identity, power manifests in two distinct forms: that which can be quantitatively measured and that which can only be viscerally felt. Scarcity is the architect of the latter. It is not fundamentally about your material possessions, your verbal pronouncements, or even your overt actions. It is profoundly about what others believe you are capable of, but deliberately choose not to enact. When you meticulously limit your presence, people's minds become fertile ground for the germination of hidden depths. They project onto you the image of an individual consumed by grander designs, engaged in consultations with more influential allies, orchestrating moves beyond their immediate comprehension. Their inherent fear of exclusion contributes more profoundly to your reputation than any eloquent speech or ostentatious display of strength ever could. This is the juncture where scarcity transmutes into a truly dangerous force. It transforms mere speculation into unwavering loyalty, and raw anxiety into compliant obedience. People pursue you not because you issue direct commands, but because they cannot endure the torment of not knowing your position. Scarcity renders your silence profoundly deafening. When your pronouncements are rare, every single word carries immense gravity. A concise comment resonates with the force of a royal decree. A deliberate pause feels like a rigorous test. People instinctively lean in, meticulously analyzing your tone, your expressions, your timing. They conjure visions of profound depths and intricate strategies where none may exist, and this psychological projection invariably works to your strategic advantage. Scarcity amplifies your presence to an extraordinary degree. When you do manifest, the contrast is stark and immediately impactful. Your arrival feels akin to a momentous event. Your approval is perceived as an invaluable gift. People intently observe your gestures precisely because they are rare, and rarity, by its very definition, is power. A monarch does not traverse the common streets daily. When he appears on the royal balcony, the multitude instinctively converges below. Scarcity empowers others to zealously safeguard your reputation on your behalf. Those who patiently await your attention will ardently defend you. Driven by their desire to demonstrate their worthiness for your favor, they will silence detractors and critics without explicit instruction. They become deeply invested in protecting your public image, perceiving their access to you as a direct reflection of their own esteemed status. Scarcity transforms absence into potent pressure. When your availability is not a constant, people inevitably begin to speculate about your whereabouts, your engagements, your strategic intentions. Their minds fill these informational voids, typically with exaggerated perceptions of your power and influence. They assume you possess superior alternatives. They harbor a profound fear of being replaced. This fear compels them to pursue you with greater intensity and to obey you with increased alacrity. Power is never garnered through chasing others. It is acquired by compelling others to chase you. Scarcity is not merely a tactical maneuver. It is a fundamental identity. The precise moment you cease to indiscriminately offer your attention to every opportunity, every individual, every solicitous request, your perceived value soars. When your presence is rigorously controlled, your time meticulously disciplined, your words judiciously measured, people cease to take you for granted. They keenly observe when you speak, they keenly observe when you disappear, and they keenly observe when you choose to return. Scarcity fosters dependence in others. When their need for you surpasses your need for them, the entire balance of power irrevocably shifts. You are no longer obligated to prove your worth. They begin to prove theirs to you. You no longer pursue power. Power actively pursues you. True scarcity achieves more than merely protecting your value. It actively cultivates an aura. People begin to envision you as larger than life. They ponder your grand designs during your periods of silence. They fear forfeiting your favor when you maintain distance. They interpret your every gesture as deliberate, your every utterance as a calculated maneuver. In their collective consciousness, you transcend being merely a person. You become an undeniable presence. This presence is inherently dangerous. Your silence becomes deafening. Your absence is profoundly felt. Your approval becomes a rare and, therefore, priceless commodity. Others will begin to zealously guard your reputation for you, defending your name in rooms you have not even entered, not out of inherent loyalty, but from a profound apprehension of losing access to you. However, do not be deceived. This phenomenon is not born of magic. It is the direct consequence of unwavering discipline. Anyone can inundate the world with their unceasing attention. Precious few possess the self-mastery to strategically withhold it. Scarcity demands rigorous restraint, resisting the ingrained impulse to over-explain, to over-give, to over-appear. The weak plead for visibility, the strong compel the world to keenly observe their absence. And yes, scarcity inherently comes with a cost. It necessitates a foundation of genuine strength to back it up. If you are scarce but fundamentally hollow, others will eventually penetrate the facade. But if you are scarce and genuinely formidable, if your skills, your influence, your resources are demonstrably real, then your legend will expand exponentially with every moment you choose to remain silent. This is Machiavelli's unvarnished protocol. It is neither polite, nor does it conform to notions of fairness, but it functions with devastating efficacy in royal courts, in corporate boardrooms, and in the intricate dynamics of personal relationships. The world does not bestow its rewards upon the desperate, it exclusively rewards the rare. Therefore, cease broadcasting your every thought. Discontinue explaining your every action. Stop freely offering your presence to those who have not demonstrably earned it. Become the individual others tirelessly pursue, the one they cannot effortlessly reach, the one about whom whispers circulate in your absence. If you have gleaned something profoundly dangerous here, something you will rarely encounter in polite discourse, do not merely absorb it. Like this video to acknowledge its potent truth. Share it with those who are ready to grasp these principles. Subscribe now, because this caliber of power is not a commodity that will remain freely available indefinitely. Be scarce. Be coveted. Be feared. The journey to mastering scarcity begins now. If you're ready to wield this powerful truth and transform your influence, like this video to affirm your commitment. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to ensure you never miss another lesson in true power. The world awaits your calculated absence.